Thank you all for joining and welcome to a conversation around 360 approach to digital transformation. I'm your host, Terri Kershner, and I'm with BlueSky Commerce. BlueSky Commerce is a global professional services organization. We provide a full range of strategy, technology, marketing, and talent solutions that are really helping businesses transform digitally. Every month, thousands of people are searching the term digital transformation, and the results for those terms, over 439 million results will pop up on Google. There's obviously a lot of talk today about digital transformation and what it means. So joining me today for this conversation are some of my colleagues from BlueSky who will share their knowledge and point of view. They'll be talking not only about some of the ways that businesses are adopting a holistic and 360 approach to digital solutions, but they'll also provide examples of a framework for your own implementation. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panel of strategy, technology, marketing, and talent experts, starting with Kevin Lyons. Kevin is our Chief Strategy Officer and also runs our own strategy practice, which we call operating units or OUs at BlueSky. Next is Todd Irwin. Todd is our CEO here at BlueSky, and he's our resident expert today on our technology OU. Winkler has joined us today. Lori's the Managing Director of BlueSky Marketing, which is our in-house marketing agency. And lastly, we have Josh Woody with us. Josh is our VP of HR, but he's also the Managing Director of our talent acquisition operating unit. So to kick things off, I want to get a little bit background on BlueSky and why we adopted a similar approach to our services, where we bring a 360 process to our clients and how this approach supports our clients' overall digital and business strategies. This approach that we use allows us to meet our clients where they are in their process of adoption and transformation. We know not everyone's always in the same stage. So Todd, as CEO of BlueSky, can you provide us some background on how we, as BlueSky, evolved our business to address the needs and changes in the industry today?
Oh, absolutely, Terri. Well, probably like many of the visitors today in your unique businesses, we've evolved dramatically over time. Our company's been around a couple of decades. In our early days, we lived in email and network files, and we had client server systems that we would store our knowledge base or IP, intellectual properties, our assets, if you will. Our internal operations were restricted by the technologies and methods of the time. So if you think about that just a couple of decades ago and fast forward to today, we are fully digital. Internally, we leverage collaboration suites like Google for communication, collaboration, continual development of our IP, and other tools like Salesforce for our pipeline management and CRM management across the globe. All of these opportunities have evolved. The evolution of cloud computing, the collaboration suites that companies like Google, companies like Microsoft, and others have invested heavily in, have really helped transform and lead us into this digital age. However, for us as BlueSky Commerce, this transition happened iteratively over time. We were faced with having to evolve to stay relevant, to be able to shift to market demands. And I'm happy to say today we are as nimble and as agile and able to work at peak production because we are digital and we use these tool sets and we have the mindset to be digital. We all were faced with a kind of a test of your operations when COVID hit last year. But BlueSky Commerce, we were in a great position not only to sustain and embrace the challenge, but actually be as productive to meet our own internal needs and meet our clients' needs. We didn't miss a beat. We effectively weren't challenged operationally, and nor were we challenged in our sales capacity. Culturally, maybe a little bit. For our clients, as we look back 15, 20 years ago, how did we embrace and engage with our clients? We pushed agendas that, had our subject matter experts flying across North America we were presenting with storyboards and leveraging, the sales tactics of the time. Today, we're demonstrating speed and agility in our work by ultimately passing, those mindsets and that capability over to our clients through just interaction. They see how we work digitally. We help them embrace digital. We're using our own digital capabilities to consult with our clients and the various opportunities for them to go digital at every step along the way. If it starts with strategy, that's perfect. If we engage in technology, that's another spoke in the wheel. All the way down to, the human capital and talent side of the business. There's a digital solution that we're providing. So, we're engaging in strategy engagements, showing the digital roadmap, and we're following that up with technology, marketing, and talent. But I would say a key element for the transformation is truly adoption. You have to really have buy-in across the board, and then embrace, this adoption culturally. We've had a change in the way we work. And culturally, we had to embrace that. Everybody needs to understand what's in it for them, and then the buy-in is more achievable, and the adoption happens relatively quickly. So for us, we've seen this happen in all aspects of our operations, from sales to production and even to HR. Thank you, Terri.
Anyone have anything they want to add to that?
Yeah, Terri, just building upon what Todd mentioned regarding our own internal efforts, the HR function for which I'm responsible has realized a significant digital transformation over the past 3 to 4 years. This initiative to modernize actually began prior to COVID, but kind of really accelerated as a result. We've touched many aspects of HR functions within the organization: recruiting, onboarding, payroll, compliance, benefits, performance management, to name a few. Take employee onboarding, for example. On day one, we used to hand a new hire a welcome packet this thick with company information and a bunch of pen and paper forms. They'd spend the next 2 to 3 hours reading and filling out these forms. We then mail the paperwork to our accounting partner and fax enrollment forms to our insurance carriers. We did at one point get to scanning some forms and sending via secure email. So we check all the boxes and then file it away in these filing cabinets over here. Fast forward to today, our onboarding experience is 100% online, in the cloud, and digital. And we no longer have to try to decipher someone's handwriting. Is that a 2 or a 7 in their social security number? A really great feature to the systems we implemented is that they all talk to each other and communicate with our third-party vendors. For example, when an employee completes their insurance benefits enrollment, the biweekly employee premiums are mapped to our deduction codes in ADP and passed to that system where they are automatically applied and calculated for payroll. So no more master spreadsheet of deductions. Initial enrollment and any changes are automatically sent to all of our insurance carriers. And the filing cabinet I mentioned, I don't think I've opened it up once or twice in the past year. So more examples I won't get into here, but a couple takeaways: much more streamlined process and impacts cost and reduces the chance for errors, and then a significantly better candidate and employee experience across the board.
Josh, that's a good point, because I was going to say, as an employee, I recognize all the benefits of everything we're doing digitally. And Todd, you mentioned Google Suites. One of the things I thought we did a good job there is, talking about why we're doing it well in advance. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, about how important, when we do a digital transformation, how important it is to communicate with the stakeholders what you're doing, why, timeline. And then one of the things that I think we're doing really well is the education piece of it too, right? We're not expecting someone just to adopt this new technology, this new digital process without understanding how to do it. So I think we've done a good job with that. So thanks, you guys. I appreciate that. Today, we know that organizations are under great pressure to digitize services and quickly and at scale to meet the rising demands of customers and to create new revenue channels. I read that 85% of IT leaders report integration challenges are hindering their digital transformation efforts. So organizations really need to enable innovation beyond the 4 walls of IT. I think this is a very important lesson for CIOs, and I believe they've all started to learn that. There are no IT projects, there are only business projects. So let's start there. With that in mind, what can companies do to leverage their current infrastructure, yet move towards more, business project versus IT projects. Kevin, you want to start us off with that, with your response?
Yeah, thanks, Terry. It starts with, what's the plan, right? When you talk about a business, like, what is the plan? Do you have growth goals? And if you have them, do you have a plan on how you're going to achieve them? Have you set aside resources, to face challenges that maybe your customers or your business or your employees are actually presenting you? We look at it kind of strategy wise, it's like a four-way teeter-totter, right? So there's this delicate balance that happens between strategy and culture, technology and process. So, which one is going to lead how you talk to your customers, which is marketing, and in what channels, which would be the technology component, with what resources from a talent perspective, and for what purpose, which is strategy. So it really does go back to, make sure that you're focusing on the business and not just that it's a technology play here. It's the all things are possible.
Yeah, good points. Todd, can you add some commentary for us?
Sure. Well, hey, Terry, one of the points you made in your setup of the question was there are no longer IT projects, only business projects. I think I couldn't agree with that statement more, as where you want to be, right? But the reality is you're not there until you're fully digital. So what I mean by that is once you're in the cloud and you've adequately tooled up to be successful, to turn on a dime on business demand, that is when business is completely running the show. Today, in almost every single organization we've dealt with, I think it is 100%, by the way, we still have companies that have technical debt. They're not fully digital, nor are they going to be fully digital in the next 6 months to 12 months, but they're taking steps to retire that technical debt and get to full cloud operation status and get to the point where they're using the tools that they need to enhance the technology to answer a business problem. And so I don't think there should ever be a project that gets green lit that doesn't have a business problem, with the only exception being when you're retiring technical debt, which in most cases means you're taking one more step toward being truly digital. So Terry, that's my perspective on that, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you. Kevin, going back to you always talk about clients and pundits concentrating too much on the digital and not enough on the transformation and the digital transformation. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I know it's blasphemy, right, to not talk about technology when you work in the technology business, but it is really about that, because I think it goes back to the first question we had about the business and IT projects. It's so many people are enamored with technology for technology's sake, right? And not the what can it actually do for me. And right now, digital transformation, conversations around AI, blockchain, you name it. Like, leaders are hearing all this stuff, but really you have to focus on the cultural shift that digital transformation demands. Like, internally in your organization, what does it mean for your customers? We had one client in manufacturing. They came to us and said, we really need help with this CRM. Our team really wants to do that, right? A CRM project. And then once we started talking to them, we found out they had 3 other technical projects that they wanted to get done that year. So we talked to them about creating a technical roadmap, but it had to align to the business, right? So to think about the problems that the business was facing. So we went through business planning. We talked about prioritizing projects, and the results, they got a 3-year plan out of this, which actually has real outcomes and dependencies that they're going to face over the next 12 to 18 months. And without that, they probably would have implemented CRM and thrown it out, because they would have blamed it on CRM being bad and not focusing on the real problem that they were trying to solve. So, every time that we talk about digital transformation, that transformation work cannot be overemphasized enough.
Yeah, Laura, I want to get your input on this, but before I do, one of the things I remember years ago, it was like, here's the technology. What business problem do you have that we can shove this in to solve it? Right now, I have this business problem. What technology is out there to help me solve that? So there has been a complete shift in within the last, just few years actually. So Lori, you want to share some thoughts on that question as well?
Sure, absolutely, Terry. It's like Kevin said, I think digital in of itself is something that people are somewhat enamored with, but has various meanings across the board, depending on who you're talking to or what the customer needs. And so I think through the last few years in particular, as things are going more into the digital transformation as a business strategy, what we've seen is people are still a little confused as to what that actually means. We have one client who, ended up spending an exorbitant amount of money prior to coming to us on PPC campaigns. And then we had another client who spent an exorbitant amount of social media dollars, all going towards trying to become more digitally savvy. And ultimately what ended up happening is there was no framework around it. There was no plan as to what they were trying to accomplish. What does the customer actually need? And so when they came to us after we audited their digital strategies and tactics, we were able to identify a much stronger, more streamlined and more cohesive business plan with the focus on the customer, identifying who's the customer, what do they need. And by doing so, these companies are able to actually spend less because they have a much more narrow focus in understanding what those needs are.
So spend less with a greater return on their investments.
And it starts with the strategy. It starts with understanding what are we trying to do and how do we use digital to become more efficient doing so with our customer as the end goal and building out their best experience.
Yeah, you're right. It's like the end, not the it's the means to the end, not the end. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the US, we're starting to move from full quarantine to restrictions to more and more businesses, industries, and communities that are opening back up. What does this mean for the remainder of 2021 and going into 2022? Who wants to answer that question first?
Terry, I could probably go first on that one.
Right.
Just coming at it from a perspective of a company that, with a global presence, while the U.S. certainly is showing great signs of progress against COVID, we got to remember this is a global pandemic, and we do have offices in multiple countries, including India. So at this point, I would like to comment that our peers in India are facing challenges. Some big challenges with relation to COVID that seem behind us here in the U.S. But it doesn't go without a day that we don't think about our peers. And but I will say this about the concept of digital and everything that we've been talking about up to this point around collaboration and the productivity that digital does afford. We're in the e-commerce, our technology groups in the e-commerce, technology solution world, and we do have global development, exercises going on, and because we've invested in digital, we haven't missed a beat. We've done very well. Our productivity and quality metrics are as good as they ever were, even through COVID and moving forward. Now, as it relates to where we are today here in North America and specifically in the United States, we have missed the in-person collaboration and the social aspect of our workplace. That's sorely been missed. But through the COVID outbreak, we tried to do some things to extend togetherness and enhance our culture, leveraging these collaboration tools. For instance, we have had professional musicians play a set during a company happy hour over Google Meet, which was pretty cool, right? And so we've tried to do things to, keep everybody feeling together as best we can. But now that the US is opening back up, we are now actually starting to plan in-person get-togethers, at least here in the States. And I think our Canadian operation will follow. But we're constantly keeping our thoughts and our prayers with our friends in our India operation.
Well, I was going to say, I hope we continue with the entertainment on the happy hour, because one of the things I liked about that is that we did get to share those activities with our colleagues elsewhere around the world. So that was always fun. It wasn't just the same people that we saw all the time too here in the US, but we actually got to digitally share the events, go to concerts with our friends. So
Yeah, I think from a customer perspective, I mean, we've seen how people are working together differently everywhere. The pandemic has made digital transformation into a digital acceleration, and I think it's size agnostic, meaning whether it's a large company or it's a small business, it doesn't matter. It's all of them are really forced them to look at technology in a way, or digital internally, and it's made them think about how does that happen externally, meaning facing their customers or their clients. And we've seen this kind of need to address the digitally native culture, and I'm sure Josh would add, talk about that too down the road. But the other part of that is that there are lots of reasons, right? The folks that need to make the investments last year didn't make them, and this year now they're saying we have to make them, right? Or we're going to fall behind. And so whether you're a small business, a large business, whether you're in the restaurant business or you're manufacturing or whatever, there are a lot of folks that actually took that opportunity to kind of look within, invest within, and get ready for whatever's going to happen next, because we didn't know what the end was. And now that we are starting to see, a light at the end of the tunnel, people are saying, if I didn't do it last year, I have to do it now. And so that 2021, this year, is not like, okay, well, you had your shot in 2020. It's still going, right? You still have a shot, but you got to start now, right?
Yeah. And Kevin, actually, to piggyback off of that, I've seen that, especially with our clients. We've had a lot of clients who dip their toes in the water, so to speak. And because of COVID, it's really pushed them to have to take that risk and take that leap. For the benefit actually of the future of their business. And we saw it especially in our B2B clients who may typically have more of the traditional sales process or more traditional promotion in their marketing. And they really had to step back and look and say, what kind of experience do we have to give our customers today? What do they need from us now? And how do we somewhat replicate the experience we used to have, but use technology to better communicate with them, especially during that time. And so the clients that really embraced it, they saw a dramatic shift, and I'm not sure they're ever going back, and hopefully they don't, because they are seeing that they can meet the customer where the customer needs them most. And they're creating now two-way experiences instead of just kind of a push out experience. And for some of our other clients that were kind of already there and really, really embraced customer experience, we saw a tremendous amount of investment in more AI tools, more automation and machine learning in a big way, so that they could get a competitive advantage over understanding those customers and what that need was on an hour by hour basis and deliver. It was simply amazing to see that shift.
Josh, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, Terri, I heard a couple things Lori said that have applications to talent acquisition. First of all, she mentioned creating two-way experiences with customers through the use of technology. In the recruiting world, we strive to do the same with candidates and potential candidates. Prior to COVID, I don't think we conducted a single video interview with any candidates at all. It was all via phone or on site. If you were local to the office, it was easy to come in. If you're out of town, we'd fly you in for a visit. When our office is closed, how are we going to continue to bring aboard talent? Would we really extend an offer to someone based on a phone interview without ever shaking their hand or making eye contact or sitting across the table from them? On the flip side, would a candidate accept an offer to join a company if they never set foot in their offices? It's a big cultural change. Today, we've fully implemented video interviewing via our G Suite platform. In some cases, we've even replaced the initial phone interview with video format. To help sell candidates on the opportunity, we have digital office profiles that we share that includes photos and in some cases videos. We're also in the process of creating a virtual tour of our offices. Secondly, Lori mentioned AI. AI is being used more and more in talent acquisition. Ask any recruiter what one of their biggest challenges is, and they will say it's trying to sift through hundreds of resumes to find applicants who are qualified. When technology and online job boards hit the scene back in the 90s and early 2000s, it made things extremely easy for job seekers to apply to a lot of jobs in a short period of time, basically the click of a button. AI can learn your job rec, collect and process thousands of data points across resumes and candidate profiles, then assign a rating or score to each, thereby providing recruiters a great starting point for engagement. AI can also help save time with many top funnel activities. Chatbots can engage with potential candidates and answer questions right from your careers page on your website. They can help with scheduling and other automation within your ATS as well. I've reviewed some applications that would help build candidate personas and construct compelling, customized employee value propositions. Now, I still feel like AI is in its infancy with respect to talent acquisition. Companies need to figure out how to best leverage it and inject it into their recruiting journey. You can't forget about the power of human touch, especially in the closing stages. Authentic human relationships are still important.
Yep, I agree with that. You know, we talk about all this digital, but it's still humans that are managing the digital, right? We're all still human. So that, and Todd's big on this about having our own videos, right? That when we are either remotely, you know, working or locked at home or out of the office, right? We do the video conferences because that keeps us, you know, humanly, you know, attached to the human touch there or the human interaction. So it's been great for us to leverage the tools that you talked about leveraging and recruiting. We use it ourselves. So Todd, you know, can you close this out? You know, you talked about, you know, our personal experience or, you know, our colleagues that are experiencing COVID in India and in the US and around, but can you talk about our clients a little bit and what it means to them?
Yeah, sure, Terry. Well, I heard a couple of customer references. I'm actually going to name one by name. We have a long-standing relationship. One of our customers actually did go through the early stages of retiring technical debt and improving the performance of their website, getting to the latest version of their platform software that they were on as they approached COVID, not knowing COVID was coming, and continued to do some performance enhancements throughout the year. And that's a company called the Golf Warehouse, or TGW.com. Big golf retailer online, or e-tailer, if you will. And they're a niche leader in that segment. Tremendous year. I think all outdoor brand companies, product companies, outdoor retail focused companies had fantastic years through COVID, and no exception for the Golf Warehouse, but they did also start to climb in the market share that they gained as well. And these improvements that they made by retiring technical debt, becoming a little bit more digital, and taking a step in the right direction towards fully digital, improving the performance of their website, paid extreme dividends to their year. And they had a fantastic year in sales, and ultimately a fantastic year in profit. So the point there is the investments were made timely enough that they were able to take advantage of those investments. Had those investments not been made, they would have still had a good year. They just wouldn't have had a great year. That may be anecdotal, but I truly believe that to be the case. You know, the increase in performance and speed of their website has a meaningful impact on convergence of shoppers into buyers. And so that's a good example of a company that's made investments that actually shine through the period of COVID, Terry.
Yeah, so that's good. So Kevin, you kind of alluded to companies, you know, that needed to make investments, and if they didn't, you know, it's not too late, right? And as you said, whether COVID completely goes away or not, it's never too late to start investing in your future. And I think COVID helped put spotlights on the need to be agile, the need to be able to change quickly. And then I think it's put a lot of people who didn't normally, you talked about the e-tailers, people who are shopping online. A lot of them are going to continue to do that, right? I think everyone had some increase in sales online because people couldn't get out. I think some of our customers were surprising, the ones that really, really took off, but they said, yeah, the COVID, people are spending money on our products. So it's not too late, I think, for anyone to, to take that transformation journey. So I got another question here. And Laura, you kind of alluded to this. You used the term getting their toes wet,
Mhm.
So I think a lot of our clients, a lot of companies think that it's an all or nothing approach, right? Is this the case? And do you experience this concern with, potential clients as you begin to, talk to them? So Lori, I'll come back to you because I do want your input, but Kevin, can you start? What are some of the ways that companies can dip their toes in the water to get started here?
Yeah, it goes back to the initial setup, that Todd mentioned about our own journey. And I think it starts internally, right? Or the way that you're working. Maybe you just start there and try to figure out, how I was working before is probably not working in the new age. And can I do some things that are different for the employee experience, right? And start there. And what do I learn from that? The other part from a customer thing is like, maybe it's just like you solve one customer problem, right? There's a big problem that I take and Lori will probably talk about the journey maps or kind of everything with customers, like where are the pain points and can I solve the biggest pain point, right? Or one that's a low hanging fruit. So maybe you just start there, right? Or you think about a new business channel, right? If you're a retailer, maybe it's, do I get into third party marketplaces? Do I test the water there? It's like a low barrier to entry and I can figure things out. If it's B2B, maybe it's digitizing your sales team, right? The fact that, you can't get face to face or push the flesh, as they used to say, right? To get a deal done. And now you have to use something different, a new process, a new technology, whatever it may be to get that done, right? And I think that we're starting to see the things automating some of simple tasks can then leverage learnings to apply to other things that are more business related. So now, they know that they can look at real data and make decisions off of that because they're learning stuff as they go. So it isn't an all or nothing thing. You can start really small and start to snowball it based on what you see as the impact of that.
All right, thanks. Lori, you want to
Yeah.
provide some thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, for marketing in particular, putting your toes in the water is better than doing nothing. So I think it goes back to that whole statement of one day at a time with a bigger plan. And so as Kevin mentioned, if you're putting your customer at the forefront, it may be, let's see how we're already engaging with our customers. Let's invest in CDPs, some customer data platforms that allow us to track real time what our customers are doing and where maybe some of these touch points are. And we can use that data, build out the customer journeys and be able, that's probably the place that's best to start so that you get a full understanding of the customer. And then you can, as Kevin mentioned, put incremental strategies and tactics together that continue to address building out an even better and greater experience that's ongoing, it's consistent, and it means it's meaningful. And I think that's part of what marketing is all about is creating meaningful relationships, whether they're in person or online. We have one customer who actually, they had a lot of different touch points with the customer, but they weren't really capitalizing on any single one of them. And each one became its own opportunity for, as we mentioned earlier, creating more of a two-way conversation. So when they'd send an invoice or when they'd send a product registration, at the end of the day, those were key opportunities to not only kind of upsell or kind of look at what else the customer might want that can make their life easier, but they can also get feedback, which is going to eventually help your business develop new products, develop better customer service solutions. And for them in particular, the customer service area was huge. They got feedback areas that, may have been actually huge problems that several customers were really, big customers were looking at possibly leaving. And had they not engaged and used technology to have that interactive discussion, they may have lost those customers, and instead they've been able to fix the problem within a very small amount of time. So something like that is not terribly overwhelming, but it was extremely beneficial for the customer to take the time to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. So, we've talked about the 360 approach, and we've used that term a little bit. We work with our own clients with the 360 approach. Can you guys provide examples of the ways we are working with our clients to build the strategies and then to continue to evolve the solution? Kevin, you want to lead us off?
Yeah, I mean, we have quite a few now. And the thing I always say is a customer never comes to you for everything, right? Usually it's one thing they come to you for. It's one problem that they want you to fix. And it's through that 360 approach where you can actually sit down, you do what we call discovery, right? But you're having a conversation. You're talking about their business goals. What are they trying to solve? What keeps them up at night? And those are the things that then start leading into that 360 plan, because you start to think, well, yes, they may have come to us for a technology opportunity, but then we uncover some customer opportunity that they need to, address using our marketing services, or their org chart needs an overhaul. And, we need to fix that through a talent engagement. We got one client that came to us, and they were in the mutual business, and they just want us to white label basically a commerce solution. And it started with a conversation where, they found us online, but Lori had a conversation with them, started probing and understanding that really they needed to kind of figure out what their strategy was, like how they're going to go to market, how they're going to tell the story. And so we started for the strategy engagement, started working on their strategic business plan, brought Lori's team back in to start talking about how they're going to go pitch investors and folks for the future, right? And then thinking about CRM as part of a data structure, right? Before we actually invest in the platform and just go to the platform, again, going back to that old client, is like we look at the data part of that. We had another client that was looking to just do third-party marketplace expansion, meaning like they wanted to go globally. They were already selling on Amazon, and they wanted to add some more channels into more countries. And after doing a pretty lengthy discovery, we actually knew that if they did that first, they would have put an enormous strain on their business. And so we had to overhaul their ERP. And we're in the process of doing that. They're actually talking to Lori's team now and kind of doing an audit of their marketing tactics and trying to come up with the right strategy. I know it's going to lead to some engagement around org chart development, which is what we're talking to them about right now. And we're doing a lot of technology implementation work. So we really hit all 4 points, and they came to us for one thing. And the thing about all of this, like even in the pandemic, that I tell people is like, there are a lot of businesses that really struggled during the pandemic. And there's a lot that had a residual benefit, a positive benefit from it. And you need to learn from both, right? You're not going to be able to sustain that growth long term. So it's really kind of digging into like, why did this happen? How can I make sure that I can build off of that, whether it's good or bad? Because if I just rest on my laurels because I had a good year because of something that happened externally, that's not repeatable. That's not a strategy. And so we have to think about that with our 360 approach of saying like, there's a technology component to that. There's certainly the way that we talk to our customers, the way that we handle our organizational structure, right? And our business overall to move forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. A customer comes to us about one thing. Well, we can fix that problem, but in the end, it's really not fixing a problem. So you take a step back and look at, like you said, what's the business? What's the goals of the business? And by implementing a CRM solution is not going to address the goals of the business, right? It's going to have one piece of it. So that's a good point, Kevin. Thanks. So, Lori, do you have anything to comment on?
Yeah, I think just real quickly, I think what makes the 360 approach so valuable is on our end, we may be representative of different areas and different operating units, but we're all business advisors. We're all business problem solvers. And I think that's where we come at it. and where customers need that help. You don't need everything all at once, but we want to make sure, however you approach your transformation, you're doing it in a way that is going to be the most cost effective and most business success, provide your business the most success possible. And so we're not, we don't fit people into our area or our solution. We look at your business and fit your growth into the way that we work with you.
Yeah, I think, just to build off of that, what Lori said is, don't discount the fact that a lot of us have owned our own businesses before. We've been through this. So it's like, the hair club for men thing. It's just like, not only am I the consultant, I'm also a client, right? Because I was in their shoes. So we have a lot of people on our team that are like that pull from those individual experiences, and we kind of get the fact that they're struggling right now, or they're really doing well, and they want to see how they sustain that, because we've been through all of that before.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Okay, now I have another question here, and I think this is our last one. Driving change to build a digitally native culture starts with transparency. Change management can only truly be successful if there's buy-in as a whole and people see those as part of the success, right? We talked about that a little bit within our own transformation. So what are some of the ways teams can evolve their culture and communications to ensure success? So Lori, you want to take this first?
Sure, Terry. So I think that by building a digitally native culture that is customer centric first is actually where it all starts. It's the most cohesive way to unite all teams and fronts in the overall strategy. And so by bringing together each of the departments and being able to focus on that customer and build that as your framework supported by the mission and values, it's inevitably going to begin happening and evolving where everybody's on the same page and really driving toward customer success. I think the internal communication is really the cornerstone for that success. And while projects are executed in individual departments, having that roadmap really should be developed in collaboration with all departments, all stakeholders. Having one or two departments who are just focusing on putting together customer-centric strategies really isn't going to be as effective as bringing the entire collaboration together, the whole group, in moving the company towards that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, being available for your customer 24/7 is what technology allows you to do. It's a total ecosystem within your organization, and getting people to understand, embody, and embrace their own importance in that role is what ultimately is going to fuel growth and success for everybody in the company.
Anyone want to add anything?
Yeah, I agree with Lori. I think, when we talk about transformation, just think for a minute what that word means just in everyday life. Think something transforms is like really starting from the inside out. And, that what she mentioned about the mission and values, goes back to purpose. It's kind of like that Simon Sinek thing of like, what is your why? Do you understand what the goal is? And then also about being transparent, right? As you're building out kind of what your plan is or your strategy, like all the stakeholders have input on that, right? If they don't know, how can they ensure the success is going to happen? So how are they going to help? And so being really transparent, and I think we've done that internally. We've been really transparent about where we're going and what we're doing. And I think we encourage that with every client that we talk to, is being really transparent, whether that's through marketing channels, being transparent with your customer, whether that's in town halls and being really, or stand-ups or whatever it may be, to how you address your employees. Is like bringing them along in the journey. It's not a tops down approach anymore. It's not the old days, the way of doing strategy in a closed smoke filled room. It's all about being out in the open and being really, in a digital world, everything's transparent, right? And the thing is that the digital world is so transparent and it's omnipresent that they have to be that way too.
Yeah, I want to make a quick comment here, and I wish I would have counted how many times we used the word customer, right? So, we say it all starts with the customer, and then you talked about, transparency through marketing communications to your customers. Todd, you mentioned, our own internal employees too, right? And how important it is. So those are the two main, people to focus on, your customers and your employees when you do this digital transformation. So Laura, you always mention customer first.
Too much.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. So
We get in trouble if we don't.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's not a bad thing. If you
Yeah.
start with the customer at first,
Right.
if they're the key stakeholder for everything that you do, and you do things well, you're going to have a viable business. And that's, at the end of the day, Terry, I think what this question and this topic is leading us towards, is the stakeholder buy-in and adoption. What is in it for me as a stakeholder? If I know that my job, regardless of what it is for my organization, is going to impact our customers in a positive way, make us a better partner to our customers, more valuable to our customers, which adds to longevity of a customer relationship, then I can buy into that, right? I mean, that impacts me at an individual level, but it props my company up to be successful. And so I think that's what it's all about. We're the people that are watching this today are likely here to, learn a little bit more about what digital transformation means, but what it could mean for you as as an individual, perhaps a leader in your organization. How do you adopt, the first step or step number 10 that you're already involved in your transformation to become more digital? So Terry, I think that's a good place to wrap for this question, unless anybody else has anything else.
Yeah, actually, that's the last question. So I think that's a great place to wrap. So with that, everyone, thank you very much. I appreciate all your time today and your feedback and your point of view on the world of digital transformation for everyone. And everyone who joined us, thank you. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Goodbye.